Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome to the start of a reading vlog. So this reading vlog is a collab with Jenn from the Book Refuge, and we are going to be picking each other's TBRs. So after you finish watching this video, definitely pop over to Jenn's channel. I'll have it linked down in the description below, and you can see the books I picked for Jenn to read. So this should be really fun. If you have not checked out Jenn's channel yet, definitely do so. She has amazing romance recommendations. I know she reads a lot of historical romance and then fanfic and monster romance. So I will say I hadn't talked to Jenn very much prior to us agreeing to do this collab, but then I ended up reading Manacled. And by the way, if you have not read Manacled yet, definitely do so. It is amazing. But anyway, I was reading Manacled and Jenn was so nice, like probably one of the nicest content creators I've ever talked to. And she gave me a bunch of fanfic recommendations. She kind of explained the entire book binding process to me and just answered all of these questions that took a lot of time. So definitely check out Jenn's channel. She's just such a nice person. So I'm so excited for this vlog. I can't wait to read these books. So Crystal from Crystal's Book is Life and I recently also did a collab vlog, and Crystal actually read down the list of all the books that I suggested she pick up and explained why she did or did not pick up said books. And I really liked that. I thought it was interesting. So I'm gonna do the same thing. So Jenn actually was, once again, super sweet. And she wrote down, besides the book title, why she thought I should read the book, and then a little summary. I was not nearly as considerate. I literally just sent her title, so I felt so bad after that. But anyway, I'm going to explain these books. Now, the only criteria I had was I gave her some of my trigger warnings, and then I said all of the books had to be available via audio, just because that is the only way I can promise to get books read in a certain time. So, first up we have Don't Hex and Drive by Juliet Cross. This is the second book in that paranormal romance series that I forget the name of, but I did really enjoy book one. The reason I am not picking this book is because those kind of paranormal romances that really involve witches and werewolves, they just kind of remind me of fall. I actually think this one features a vampire. But yeah, they just kind of give me fall feels, and we're getting into summer, so I just wasn't really in the mood to pick that up. Then the next one is A Matter of Temptation by Stacey Reed. So this is a standalone, and it is a heroine who ends up having to fight via fencing, and it turns out she's not very good at fencing, so then she becomes the person she was dueling's secretary. So this is a workplace romance. I am not the biggest fan of workplace romance, and it is mostly because I read for escapism, and I don't like reading about corporate workplace romances. So I do think this might work for me. There were just others on this list that I thought might work a little bit better. So next up we have Last Light, and this is by Claire Kent. And this is a post-apocalyptic standalone romance between a grumpy mechanic and this, I believe this woman, and they have to survive on their own together. So that is one that I will be reading because it kind of goes with the other books I picked. We're kind of going to have a dystopian, post-apocalyptic monster romance type vibe for this vlog. It's going to be glorious. So next up we have Ruthless Stranger by Maggie Cole. And this was the first one I actually chose and was going to read. And then the vlog kind of went in a different direction. So I'm not going to be reading this, but it is a motorcycle club mafia romance. And it starts off with this divorce party, and I think this person is blindfolded. She ends up hooking up with this guy, and then when she goes back to her hometown, she finds out the guy lives there, and it goes from there. I am going to pick that book up eventually because it sounds really good. I was just very, very intrigued by Ensnared by Tiffany Roberts. So this is an alien spider romance. That's all I know. But I am so interested. So I've actually heard a lot of people say that this romance is very, very sweet. And it has really, really good reviews. And I've been trying to get into monster romance. I just feel like all the monster romance I pick up, I end up hating. So I actually have a monster romance reading vlog. And I think I gave all of the books I read 2.5. I think I gave I Married a Lizard Man 3.5. That was definitely my favorite. And that's probably my favorite monster romance as of now. It's the Prime Mating Agency series. I forget the author, but I Married a Lizard Man. I don't think there's a lot with that title. But yeah, so I'm very interested. I hate spiders. I hate them. I'm absolutely terrified. They freak me out. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about a love interest that is a giant spider, but I am willing to give it a shot. And yeah, Jenn said that she really, really enjoyed it. So I cannot wait to pick that up. And then once we started talking about monster romance, I asked if there were any other monster romances that she really enjoyed. And she said Soul Eater by Lily Mayne. So that is the last book I will be reading. And that is an monster romance. And I also believe that is post-apocalyptic or dystopian. So that's kind of the feel of this vlog. It's going to be like monster dystopian romance. And it should be really fun. Alright guys, so welcome to the first check-in. I am around 11 or 12 chapters into Ensnared, I'm pretty sure is the name of it, the spider monster romance. I have no idea how I'm feeling about it. So I will say that there's definitely a little bit more like character development going on than the Tiffany Roberts monster romances that I've read in the past. So we're following Catan, who is like an alien spider person. And we're finding out that the queen of like the spider aliens wants Catan to be her mate because in this world, or at least with this race, the race of Frex, something like that, the women kind of fight for power and then they rule. So anyway, Catan does not want to be mated to the queen because she is like starving her people and she's pretty terrible. So one day when he's out foraging, he finds Ivy, and Ivy is this girl that was supposed to be traveling to an alien planet, and then something went awry, and I think it crash landed onto this planet. So Catan ends up finding her, takes her back to his home or his nest, and they're pretty much just trying to like understand each other because obviously he doesn't speak English, she doesn't speak spider, and they're slowly starting to kind of find out about each other. So at first Catan kind of saw Ivy as like his pet, and now he's starting to be like, ooh, she's kind of nice. So obviously they're gonna have a relationship, but I am interested to see how it's gonna play out with the like head of the spiders, the queen, like what's she gonna do with Ivy. And yeah, it's definitely interesting. I still don't know how I feel about having a spider as the love interest. Yeah, we'll see how this plays out and how like anatomically that works if there is a spicy scene. But either way, I am enjoying it. It's definitely a fun time. So I will check in with you guys after I have read a little bit more of this book. Alright guys, so I have officially finished Ensnared. And honestly, if you had told me when I first started reading romance and getting into that genre that I would absolutely love a monster romance that featured a love interest who is a giant alien spider, I would not have believed you. But that is honestly why I love doing these collaborative vlogs, because they really get you out of your comfort zone and you pick up books you generally probably wouldn't have picked up. But anyway, for the spoiler-free section, I absolutely adored this book. I thought it was so good. So when I read monster romance, I feel like the majority of books that I pick up that are monster romance are very short. They're normally like novella length, and they normally kind of go straight to the spice, which is totally fine. Like sometimes I am in the mood for that, but that book does not, or this book does not do that. There is a lot of time just explaining the world, explaining how both characters got into the situation they are in. And it felt more like a fantasy romance to me than a straight monster romance. And what I mean by that is there are so many elements going on in terms of plot other than the romance. So I'll get more into this in the spoiler section, but there are a lot of things that are left like unresolved at the end of this book. I definitely plan on continuing with the series. It is part of, I believe, a 3-book series. But yeah, there's so much going on other than the romance, but the romance itself is really, really good. So the one thing I will say is, I kind of already said this, it is very, very slow burn. It takes so long for them to get together, and it is very much worth the wait. But just like know that going in, if you are someone who reads a lot of monster romance, it takes a while to get going. Me and Jenn literally talked about this earlier, where I was like, why aren't they getting together? But anyway, absolutely loved it. Highly recommend. So moving into the spoiler section, I love Catan so much. I honestly like him more than Ivy, to be honest with you. And I loved seeing him take care of Ivy. So when we find out that Ivy really had a upsetting like upbringing, everyone really has failed her in her life her parents didn't really take care of her. They were older when they had her, and they had already raised her brother. And then you had her ex-boyfriend that completely took advantage of her like naivety. And it's just so adorable to see Catan, who is an alien spider and should be a monster, be the one person that treats Ivy with respect and kindness, and he cherishes her. And I loved their relationship. There's a moment where there's like a thunderstorm and Catan is just like stroking her back, and I was like, they're so cute. They're so cute. I just want them to get together. And it took so long. But yeah, I loved them together. I'm very curious about how some things are going to go into play, like spider babies. I really want to know like how that's going to work. Also the fact that the spider is able to pretty much make restraint ropes himself is just, that's an added bonus, right? So I am very much looking forward to continuing with this series. Thank you so much, Jenn, for recommending this one. And the narrators for this did a amazing job. So definitely check out the audio. Unfortunately, the other two books aren't available via audio yet. I hope they come out really soon. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with Catan. Also the fact that humans are now at play in this world, because at the very end of this is the spoiler section, by the way, Ivy finds out where Catan found her, and there are a bunch of humans, and I think Ivy's gonna end up waking them up, so I don't know if they're gonna have like relationships with other spiders and like things of that nature. Also, the queen is still at play, and she still wants Catan as a mate, and just, it should be really good. And the spice was great, so I cannot wait to continue and read more of this series. It's not gonna happen in this vlog, but I'm excited to check out all of the other books. All right, guys, so I started Soul Eater. It's not at all what I expected. So we're following this guy named Danny, and I guess it's like a post-apocalyptic world or dystopian world, and monsters have taken over. So Danny is now working in the military. He had to sign up because his mother was really the only person who cared about him, and she passed away. So you can tell he doesn't really love being in the military. But he's doing it because like that's the only place he's safe, because there are these crazy monsters running around killing everybody. So the book starts off in like a battle with one of these monsters, and it seems very like sci-fi where I'm at. So I'm on chapter 11, and we're not very like, there's like no romance going on. We're really just like setting up the world. But I will say I am very much invested. Like, I love like zombie type books, and this is kind of giving like that whole feel where Danny is with this monster that has broken out of a military base, and they're traveling together. So we kind of find out a little bit more about this monster, and then there's also, this is that I'm not gonna say because it is a spoiler, but there's another monster parasite thing that is also infecting humans. And yeah, it's definitely one of those books that like hooks you right away. Like, I definitely am gonna finish this probably tonight, just because I'm really enjoying the story. I am interested of when the romance is gonna come into play though, because like they're really not doing anything quite yet, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting a little bit more romance, but I love our monster character, and I will say, whoever is narrating, I'll figure it out and then I'll tell you in the next check-in. They're doing such a good job. Like, the monster voice it's so good. And then also Danny's voice, he's Southern and he has a little bit of an accent, and I'm really liking it. So yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit more and then I'll check with you guys later. All right guys, so I read a little bit more of Soul Eater. I figured I would do a check-in. So this part is spoiler free, but I am gonna talk about the romance like in very vague details. So in my last check-in, I was like, I'm not exactly sure when the romance is gonna come into play. And literally I filmed that clip, I put the audiobook back on, and there was a spicy scene in the next scene. So that's gonna kind of explain my one critique of this book. So I feel like the first part of this book, it had a lot to do. We kind of had to discover the world. They really do a good job of explaining the world, explaining how Earth got to be the way it is. Also talk about the different creatures that are inhabiting the world, and then their motivations and why they are doing what they are doing. So look, the book had to do a lot. So the romance though really felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, and by no means am I hating on the romance. I actually really love their romance. It's just like Danny, who is this very sweet guy and kind of naive, just suddenly he's in the bathroom and he's like, I want to get with him. And like, I just feel like it really, I wanted a little bit more like flirting, but that's probably just a me preference. That has like, I'm sure there's plenty of people that see no issues with this romance. And once again, it is adorable. But I just feel like out of nowhere, Danny was like, I want that monster. Like, I'm going to get with that monster. So, and then they have a spicy scene. Like, literally, after he thinks that, the next chapter, I think they're in like a store or something. And he just goes to the monster and is like, yeah, I want you. So, look, it is what it is. Now, I guess we're going to get into spoilers. I'm probably going to put a spoiler image for the part I just said, because like I said, is actually a major spoiler. But, I'm enjoying this. I have no idea where this book is gonna go. So I thought that since we didn't get any sort of like romance in the very beginning, it was a lot of setup, that this book was gonna be similar to Ensnared, where like there isn't any romance until the very end and the entire book is just like angst and build up and you wanting them to kiss already. That's not the case. So I feel like this is gonna have a little bit more like action to it, as far as they are trying to take down, or we find out that the motivations of the monster is to kill these parasites that are infecting humans, and they really have nothing, the monsters have nothing against humans. Like, there are monsters that do kill humans, but for the most part, they're just trying to kill these evil parasites. So I don't know if the rest of the story is really just going to be like them taking down these parasites and like Danny like helping the monster like travel and just like kill them, or what is going to happen. But I'm having a great time, so I'm going to continue reading. And yeah, I'm not sure. I know this is part of a series, but I don't know if the books all follow the same couple or if there's like different monsters with different humans. And if that's the case, I am so interested. But yeah, I'm having a great time, and I will check in with you guys later. Hi guys. So welcome to my backyard. I figured since the last few clips I filmed around my office, we could like change it up a little bit. So I finished Soul Eater, and it is my favorite monster romance of all time. And I was so not expecting that when I went into it. So I will say the narrator's voice for Danny, who's the main character, he has a very strong Southern accent. And at first I wasn't loving it, but by the end I absolutely adored it. And just the romance between Wynn and Danny was so cute, but it was so cute in a book that is pretty dark, or has a lot of very dark elements. So I honestly forget what I said in my last check-in, but I've already kind of given you guys an idea of what the book's about. So the last like few chapters I read is really just like Danny and Wynn communicating about their relationship, and there is a part, okay, it's gone. I'm gonna leave that in. Okay, so there is a part where where Danny gets very injured. I'm sorry, the bee just made me lose track of everything I was saying. Where Danny ends up being captured and he is tortured by the military, and then Wynn ends up finding him and he's not in great shape. So Wynn just has like so much guilt over the fact that Danny has been injured, and he feels like it's all his fault, and like in some ways kind of is, but also isn't. Like, Danny did make his own choices. So Wynn is trying to like push Danny away, and Danny realizes this and he's like, please don't do this, like I love you. And watching Danny just kind of like beg Wynn, like don't do this to us, I was sobbing in my car. I actually sent Jenn a picture because like I voice memoed her as this was all going on. I was like, I love this book, but it's heartbreaking. So I was crying. I was full on crying. But I loved it. I absolutely adored it. I just love these two characters. I want the best for them. I know this is part of a series, so I will definitely be picking up the next one. I think it's Eden maybe, or something similar to that. And that character is introduced in this first book, and he seemed like a fun guy, or a fun monster. So I'm very excited to continue with this series. But yeah, I was not expecting to connect with this relationship to the level I did. Like, Wynn is just so sweet and just wants to take care of Danny, but also he doesn't really speak. Like, he's very, very quiet. So it's such a difference to Danny, who like doesn't stop talking. And I can't even put into words why I love this book so much, but just their relationship and overall dynamic, and the fact that a monster is the only one that treated Danny with respect and kindness, when the humans that were supposed to take care of him in the military treated him horribly. At one point they even branded him. So I love the monster romance, and it is a new favorite. But anyway, I have started, oh my gosh, I forget the name, The Last Light, maybe. So far, I'm liking it. It really just jumps right in. It's a post-apocalyptic world, and our main character, I think, is like 20, 21, and she's trying to get to a military base, and she ends up meeting up with a mechanic that used to work in her town that's a little bit older than her. Actually, he's probably a decent amount older than probably like 10 or so years. And she decides to trust him, and they're both going to try to get to this military base together because they just found out that there might be this like group of, they're not looters, but it's like a group of people that have gotten together and have decided to make very bad decisions. And they already took down one military base, so now they're going to this next one. So they're trying to like warn that military base. And obviously I think they're gonna fall in love along the way. The one thing I will say about this book, I've actually gotten to the point where like they're already kind of in a relationship or like starting to have some spicy time. They talk about smells a lot and how like the main character can smell the guy because like they're not bathing very often, but it's brought up multiple times, and I didn't need that. So now like every time they're like doing stuff together, I'm like, I wonder if he still smells bad. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with this one. So far, I actually have liked the monster romances a lot more than this one, although I am liking it so far. It's just kind of like a traveling romance, and there's nothing like really stand out at the moment. But yeah, I'm gonna try to finish this over the next 2 days, and then I will do an overall check-in with my thoughts on like all of the books. All right guys, welcome to the last check-in. I finished reading all 3 books, so let me give you my overall thoughts, starting with Last Light. So, I finished Last Light, and honestly, I'm happy I didn't film a reaction right when I finished it. It's been about a week, because I keep thinking about this book, so I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more than I originally thought. So where I left off, I was explaining like the plot of the story. We are following Lane. She's a 20-year-old girl that is traveling to a military base during this like post-apocalyptic time, and the rest of her family, or not family, the rest of her town has moved to said military base or relocated there. So she's traveling on her own. She ends up running into Travis, who is a mechanic that used to help her with her car, and he offers to help get Lane to the military base. At first she says no, but after some altercations, she ends up traveling with Travis, and it is their story. So let's say what I didn't like about this book first. It is very realistic to what would actually happen with a post-apocalyptic event. I feel like the author doesn't glorify this in any way. Like, a lot of parts are very dark. And I remember I said this in my last check-in about the smells. Like, these people aren't bathing. They don't have access to water. So our main character is always commenting that, oh, Travis, like, I can smell him. Oh, it's been 2 days. He's starting to smell like Travis again. Oh, that clean scent is fading. He's smelling like Travis. Which, I'm just somebody that is so, like, scents are such a strong thing with me that I couldn't stop thinking about that once they started having their spicy scenes, because I'd be like, but you just said he had bathed in 5 days and he smells really bad. Like, I don't want to think about you two doing the things you're doing. But at the same time, I do like the fact that the author kept things very realistic. There are very upsetting events that take place that I think unfortunately would happen during a post-apocalyptic event to women that are alone. There's also some very empowering moments. This is a very slight spoiler, but there's actually a group of women that all group up together to protect each other, and they only accept women into their group, which honestly is probably the best case scenario and such a smart plan. And I really enjoyed a lot of this. I did like the ending of the book because I was very concerned how they were going to make this have an HEA, because even if the two people get together, they're still completely unsafe and still traveling in a very dangerous environment. But the way it was done, I was very happy with the ending of this story. So originally I was going to give this 3 stars. I think I'm going to bump it to like 3.5, maybe even 4, just because I did love their romance. And I love the fact that these two people, if it was like normal society, probably never would have gotten together, but because it's the end of the world, you just look at people in a different light, and I really enjoyed it. So, Last Light, although I just gave it a lot of praise, is probably my least favorite out of the 3 books I read, but I did enjoy all 3. Then Ensnared is next. I did love this spider alien romance so much more than I thought I was going to. I was scared going into this. I hate spiders. Like, I absolutely hate them, so I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but I did. I really enjoyed it. So I feel like Catan is the sweetest, giant alien spider hero, and he's written in such a way that you just root for him and you want the best for him. And also Ivy, who has gone through some very traumatic experiences on Earth and finds comfort in this giant alien spider. And it should make no sense, but I was here for it. So I can't wait to continue with that series. And then finally, we have my favorite out of the three, Soul Eater, the MM monster romance. Danny and Wynn are gonna live rent-free in my mind forever. I loved them. I loved Wynn as a character being this monster that you honestly, as someone who is very bad with words and showing emotions, I just felt for him, and it felt so interesting feeling for this monster because, like, I completely understood what he was going through. And there is a scene where Danny is begging Wynn not to send him away, and Wynn is just trying to do what is best for Danny, and it's just done so well because it does have that miscommunication type trope, but it's done in not a frustrating way because you can completely see why these two people feel this way. It's done in a, oh my gosh, please don't let Danny leave. You guys need to be together. You're soulmates. And it's so, so good. So overall, I loved all three books. I am so nervous to watch Jenn's video because I don't know how she felt about the books I picked for her, but this should be, or I hope she really enjoyed them because they all are like such fun reads. But anyway, definitely check out Jenn's video. I'll leave it down in the description below. And I had so much fun doing this vlog. So thank you so much, Jenn. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!